Greetings and welcome to the Voices Less Said podcast show with Dr. PMAC. This is a conversational show where I bring in ordinary folks that are doing great, extraordinary work in their communities. Today, I'm really excited to bring on board a good friend of mine, someone I've known for over 10 years, Molefi Nyofane from South Africa, who is a strategic and impact-driven researcher and academic, a social entrepreneur, having over 15 years experience across government, higher education, and community development sectors. Molefi has contributed to governance and decision making as a senior researcher at the City of Johannesburg in South Africa. He has provided policy analysis, legislative research, as well as executive advisory support. Molefi is the founder and program lead of the Macro Informative Youth Agency, or MIA, that drives scalable initiatives in youth empowerment, in innovation systems, entrepreneurship development, and local economic growth within underserved communities. I'm so excited to be speaking with Molefi Nyofane today to understand the driving force behind the work that he has done in community and working with children and youth. Join me today on Voices Less Said show with Dr. P. Mac. So Molefi, I was just saying in the introduction that I've known you for over a decade, and I think of some of the experiences that we had together in Toledo, Ohio, in Bowling Green, as part of an exchange, that we did many years ago. If you reflect back on that period, and Tate, in fact, let's start there. If you reflect on that period in Ohio, or in Bowling Green, what were the 2-3 things that you think you learned out of that experience?
Well, in that day, thank you so much, Dr. PMAC, for inviting me to this platform, man. It's really amazing and it's an honor. When I think about Ohio, man, it's just mind-blowing. To be quite honest with you, that was my first international trip, It was my first international trip, and the fact that I was with other 31 African leaders, it was just an amazing experience. I got to understand Africa in 21 perspectives, having been there, learning what civic leadership really is from the perspective of a developed country was just an amazing thing. But if I were to tell you, I made contacts and I made brothers and sisters from that experience, and I got, as I did say earlier, I got to understand Africa in a more, in various perspectives, it has been amazing. I've been in contact with some of the fellows that went to Ohio, and I've been following them digitally or via social media, looking at the amazing work that they continue doing, and I think Mandela Washington Fellowship gave us an experience to build a more united Africa.
That's fantastic, and thanks. Yeah, I mean, I do have fond memories of time out there. I do remain in sort of contact with many of the colleagues that we met there. And like you, I do agree too that you tend you get to see a different perspective of Africa when you're outside Africa, right? And particularly when you're looking at the leadership that was being mentored, guided, supported through this Mandela Washington Fellowship that we were part of. You get a whole level of appreciation. And so, speaking of a whole level of appreciation, I met you during that fellowship. And we've been in contact, we've visited each other, we've, continued to support each other through the highs and lows of social entrepreneurship.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So when I think about this and I think about the work that you do, Tate, you are doing work across 3 spaces, right? Sort of, government through your sort of your policy making work. You're also doing academia. You're working in academia. You're also doing community development. So when I think about that, What was there a particular moment, or was there an experience that made you realize that you needed to work across all of these spaces?
That day. Thank you so much for bringing that question. A lot of people would ask me a lot, but the
Mm,
nicest thing about the work that we do, it's very complementary.
mm,
And I went into academia space because of the work we are doing in the community.
okay.
So I'm lecturing community development
Mm-hmm,
at the University of Free State. And
mm-hmm,
reason why that became a reality is because we actually they saw the work that we are doing in communities and felt
mm-hmm,
maybe the experience and the wisdom that was gathered through almost a decade of work in
mm,
community development can actually contribute meaningfully to academic fraternity.
yeah,
But professionally, I'm a researcher.
yeah.
Professionally, I'm a policy developer.
Mm-hmm,
That's what I studied at school.
mm,
And because of my passion for community service and
mm,
service delivery in general, I found myself having to contribute in local government. I found myself having to contribute in academic space, and also while pushing the project that was actually born out of pain. And I
yeah.
would tell you why I'm saying the project was born out of pain. I was a victim of a digital divide. When I
Mm,
finished my high school,
mm,
I did not know what to study.
mm,
And this is a reality of many African children
mm,
as well. I ended up having to go to about 4 universities
mm,
with just a matric certificate,
mm,
without knowing exactly which career am I gonna follow.
mm,
And I got there. Ideally, what I had in my mind, I wanted to become a lawyer, and
mm-hmm.
when the law passed.
You would have made a good lawyer, Ntate.
Oh my goodness.
I think you'd have
I don't know
made.
where it come from, but I know that I wanted to become a lawyer. And when I get to university, that actually my English mark was not so good. They needed
Mm,
60%, and I had 49%.
mm,
And I thought to myself when I was doing my second year, so I eventually ended up studying political science. That's
mm-hmm.
why I'm actually continuing working in the local
In
government
that space.
fraternity as
Mm,
well. Yeah.
mm,
So on my second year, something hit me in that day. Something hit me to say how many of our young people, our brothers and sisters, are at home and they do not
mm,
know what to study at all.
mm,
And I felt, let me take few prospectus and
mm,
application forms, just go and tell them that you don't need to be a nurse if you don't want to. You don't need to be a
mm,
policeman if you don't want to. There are more than 400 career pathways that you can actually follow.
mm,
What started as just like that. I went
mm,
home with few prospectors from the university and conducted career workshop. That was in 2009. I
mm,
conducted career workshops with young people and informed them that this is what you need. If you want to be a lawyer, you will need a 60%. So in
mm,
that way, I was trying to prepare them that before you graduate from secondary, make sure that your English is 60% if you want to follow a
mm,
LLB or law career,
mm,
and then something deeper happened. I thought maybe I'm not addressing this quite enough. Let's
mm,
create trips. Let's take them to university open days. So we got them in buses and taxis, mini buses, to go and see university for the first time. And that
mm,
day, from that kind of a passion, I started realizing the challenges that are happening to our young people, socioeconomic challenges,
mm,
cultural challenges, societal ills. And that fortified my passion for working with young people. All I ever wanted from 2009 was to see
mm,
as many of them going to university in multiple
mm,
numbers. I
mm.
wanted them to go to university, study like degrees that we don't know in rural communities,
Yeah.
degrees such
So,
as
so, so,
software
so I,
engineering and art. Mm,
yeah. So I want to pause you there.
mm,
And I hear and your passion is oozing out and it's beautiful and I love it.
mm.
So would you say that these youth had been left out by the system? What was the gap there? Was it a gap of knowledge, or was it a gap of institutions or universities going out into communities and providing career pathways or teaching, the youth in terms of pathways? What was the gap?
Well, I don't think the gap still exists today
Mm.
because, I mean, we are talking something that happened about over 2 decades ago,
Yeah.
where there was no advent of technology. We didn't have smartphones. Social media was not that so popular in developing countries at that time. We're talking 2007, 2008, 2009. But what was the biggest challenge was the gap in knowledge in that day. A lot of them were victim of digital divide. We didn't know what's happening out there. We're not connected with the global space. So as a result of that, you only believed what you could see at that time, and it was quite limited at that time. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't, because I mean, I went into high school. Up until I finished high school, I've never traveled outside of the Free State. I've never been to any other place except the Free State itself. So I spent 12 years in school not knowing what's happening in Johannesburg, not knowing what's happening in Cape Town. So I think the biggest problem was the digital divide and the fact that information was not effectively being disseminated in areas that are developing, like in the Eastern Free State.
Yeah. So you in your second year at university, you then decide to go back home to the Free State to put Ali Chaba and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm returning. I'm the son of the soil. I'm returning. Now I know. I know a lot." What did you find? I mean, you're talking about buses and taking buses, and is that where the Macro Informative Youth Agency was born? Was that the time that you said, "Okay, you know what? I'm doing such a good job here. Let me actually formalize an organization"? Was that the time that happened?
That was the time, but it took us about 4 years just delivering that. Specifically, we do career workshops from 2009 up until 2012. But then in 2012, universities started recognizing that there are large pool of numbers coming from the Free State. And I started being part of their career exhibitions, planning, and talking to various universities. And in 2012, we did our first huge career expo in the Free State, where we invited more than 10 universities to come and talk to learners and tell them what kind of careers can they actually pursue. And we were subsequently motivated to say, let's formalize this initiative. But let's not only look at careers, let's look at other socioeconomic challenges that young people are facing: digital literacy, entrepreneurial skills, and what. And then we started saying, let's formalize it and register it as a non-profit organization at that time. Then we started in 2012 to register as a macro informative youth agency, meaning macro means huge, humongous information dedicated for young people. That's where it came. It says that any kind of information, if young people want to pursue digital skills, we are there for them. If they want to pursue career pathways, we are there for them. If they want to start businesses, we are there for them. That was the whole aim or the vision why Macro Informative started in 2012 in that day.
2012. That's interesting. And so this journey, and speaking as a social entrepreneur myself, I look for causes that relieve human suffering, right? And so look for ways to support communities, look for ways to support young children, particularly those that need to access early childhood development. And so I'm aware of challenges perhaps that come through with starting an idea and building that idea into an organization and hiring people and getting funding to then do the work. How has that journey been for you? Has it been easy to access the resources that you need? Because it takes money, right? I mean, it takes money. Once you put an organization together, you register it as a nonprofit, then you need staff that can come and support you and work with you as you try to realize your vision. How has that journey been for you? Has it been easy to access resources? So there's someone who's listening out there and they've got an idea, they want to start, they want to support folks in the community, and listening to you. How has that journey been for you?
The journey has not been easy, Tate, but one thing I can tell you, I learned earlier when I started this initiative that if you don't invest in yourself, people will not invest in you. If I don't invest my own resources into this initiative, no one will find it really savvy for them to invest in it.
So it's
So
putting your money where your mouth is.
yes, putting your money where your mouth is entirely. And working collaboratively with other stakeholders is very important. But it took us almost a decade without getting any formal funding,
What?
without any working. A decade. A
Wow.
decade. We worked from 2009 up until 2020. We didn't
Wow.
have any form of funding. But one thing that was consistent was that we are addressing a particular societal challenge, and we are not going to back down on that. So with the little that we have, with other people, we worked with the taxi industry, we worked with bus services, we worked with government at an ad hoc programs and whatever. One thing that was consistent was that we were sharing our stories out there. We're sharing our milestones out there. The reason we're doing that was also to show the impact, but also to say if there's someone somewhere who can hear and see the work that we are doing and maybe help us support this vision, it will be appreciated. So our main aim was never to look for, we will knock on doors to look for resources and funding, but we needed to revamp our idea. Our value proposition needed to be very revamped in a manner,
So yeah, Ntati, so you're doing this work, you are working with youth, you are giving them, a glimpse of the possibilities that exist out there in academia, within the workforce, as part of, broadening their horizons, as it were. Why wouldn't government, whether local or provincial or even the national government, support your initiative? Why would it be difficult for them to come in and say, hey, you know what, here's an organization that is actually helping us work with the youth? What do you see were challenges? Why weren't they coming on board? Why weren't other sort of external funders coming on board to support the great work you're doing?
That I've learned, like it's a battle of many social enterprises, or rather non-profit organizations, especially in developing countries. I would love to hear how you do it in Canada. But one of the biggest challenges that we start these things because of the problem, but we don't have the business acumen to package the work in a manner that is worthy for donors, or in a manner that is quite understandable for donors to actually come and say, hey, I will invest in this. That's what I was saying, that your
Okay.
value proposition was, my value proposition wasn't that clear at that time. And the sustainability part of it was the biggest challenge. I've applied in 2016, 2017, I've applied to various donors or funders, but I would always get a feedback to say, but then how do you sustain your organization far beyond taking these young people to universities? However, though, in that 10 years, one thing that I can say is that we're able to get them bursaries. Majority of them studied abroad, and we're able to set some resources for these young people. But for sustaining an organization as macro informative, we couldn't really. One of the biggest challenge was our value proposition was not well crafted, and the sustainability part was actually one of the biggest problems why maybe we couldn't get funders. But that's from my perspective, because the shift
Fair enough.
changed. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you get into 2020 and you start getting funding, and so
Mm.
how did you answer that sustainability question? I know
Yeah.
that I know what I know, but I would love for you to speak with the listeners here and share how
Yes,
you addressed that sustainability question.
that we had an awakening, as an organization. I sat with my team and we brainstormed for several months to say, what can we do that can help us to continue doing the work we do with young people, but also generating income.
Yeah.
So that what happened is that we did what we call community profiling. We did a
Mm-hmm.
community profiling as macroinformative youth agency, understand some of the resources that were lacking in the community. And we found that technology and innovation has not been really practiced well in these communities. And
Mm-hmm.
now we went back and said, what can we do that can bring an ecosystem that can actually collaborate the work that young people are doing on the ground while
Yeah.
also being sustainable. This is where we then decided in that day that we are going to trade as macroinformative. We're going to position macroinformative youth agency as a
Mm-hmm.
business for industry that has not been tapped in the
Mm-hmm.
community, and then we're going to work with other small players in that community, in that industry, so that we work hand in hand with them. So what we
Mm-hmm.
did, we chose printing, 3D printing,
Okay.
billboard printing, and what we chose that as our business venture. And
Mm-hmm.
then we worked with young players in the community who were in that industry. And then
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, that after packaging our work in a manner, donors started hearing us. Technology Innovation Agency started hearing our cry. Department of Education gave us a space. We built a state-of-the-art kind of a laboratory that brings your 3D printing, your vinyl cut-up together, and eco-solvent printing together. And we
Mm-hmm.
started working with young people who are doing simple things like T-shirts, simple
Yeah.
things like cups. So what we
Yeah.
did, then we built a model in a way that to say, you will continue using our resources at a
Mm-hmm.
particular fee. And then while using our resources, we will go for our bigger markets ourselves.
Okay.
We'll work with uh, uh, um, SMMEs,
Mm-hmm.
that will need printing material. You will continue working with schools. You will continue working with what? And it has been working for about 3 years in that, where we have a network of close to 15 to 20 young people who are using our machines almost every day to go and service their customers.
So
We also trade. Yeah.
that's amazing. Sorry to cut you off.
Mm.
That's amazing because what you've done is you've sort of turned everything around on its head, right? And so
Yeah.
instead of writing proposals and applications, you've decided to become a business,
Yeah.
right? In a way, it's still a social entrepreneurship venture.
Mhm.
But what you're doing is you are providing critical services, where there's, access to 3D printing, it's final cutting, et cetera, to smaller businesses to use your machines at a fee. And then the profit, the money that you're making there, you're bringing it back into your social entrepreneurship venture
That's
to
true.
ensure that young kids, the youth are also accessing. That's fantastic. And I mean, sitting in South Africa with you a couple of weeks ago, I just said, man, you're onto something. You're really, really onto something as it relates to job creation, as it relates to entrepreneurial skills development. I just was so amazed by how far you have gone as MIA, or as macro informative youth agency. Now, you spoke about the Department of Education in South Africa coming in and starting to work with you. What other partnerships have been developed through this now new plan, sustainability plan? Have you found more donors now coming because you've got a plan, or well, how is that
Yes,
scene looking?
that's true, Dade, because you see, as I want to also tell you something that
Mm,
20% of our work is profit making, but the
okay.
main purpose why the profit has been made is from sustainability point of view, and making sure that the project exists far beyond the funding period.
Okay.
And so when I'm talking about other partners, I mean, we've worked with All Mutual, we've
Mm,
worked with Department of Education, we've worked with Vodacom, we've worked with, it's a stone soup kind of a metaphor.
mm,
Once you are very clear of what you're going to provide into the
mm,
community, a lot of people
mm,
start seeing value. You know, when I talk about the stone soup, you remember
mm,
there's a story of a stone soup where a traveler came to a village. When he
mm,
gets to a village, he actually said to a village, "Can you offer me food?" And the
mm,
villagers said, "You know what? We don't know you. Why must we give you food?" And then he said, I can offer to make you a soup using a stone as an ingredient. And the stone represented the vision in that time. And they were laughing at him to say what? And then he started boiling the stone, putting the stone inside the pot. And he said, if only one person can bring a carrot, and one villager brought a carrot. If only one person can bring a potato, one villager brought a potato. And eventually everyone contributed their little ingredient, and that created a very well nourishing and a beautiful, delicious soup that everyone can share. So I think this, the stone soup metaphor that I've just explained to you, it's a story of how microinformative has actually come to be what it is today. Because what we did, we came to Department of Education. We said we received funding to build a state-of-the-art innovation lab. If only we can get a building. And Department of Education gave a building. We went to Vodacom. We said, if only we can get computers, and Vodacom brought computers. We went to all mutual services. If only we can get money to connect and develop applications that will be online. And then they brought up. So it's a matter of everyone bringing whatever resources they have and meeting us at the point of need so that we can build this wonderful ecosystem.
That's amazing. So I want to shift a little bit from here. And your story itself, Ntate, is one that has been so amazing. I can't wait to read your memoir. I know that you are in the final stages of getting that.
Yes.
Can my listeners get a bit of a peek into what's contained in that book?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I've been wanting to write a memoir, but I just maybe couldn't. It was not the right time. So I think the right timing is now. And basically, the book, it's about letters to my younger self.
Wow.
It's basically that I'm writing letters to my younger self about the things that I wish I knew when I was young. So this book, it's a book that a family can sit together and read to their children and say, this is what Molefi wished the younger Molefi will know, about careers, about life, about leadership, about technology, about purpose, about things like that, and as it unfolds in that day, we just show how it's a more of a mentorship kind of a thing.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to get my hands on that book. When I was with you in South Africa, I managed to see the cover, the front, the back cover, the design of the book. I am anxiously waiting to get my hands on it so that I can actually read it. So be sure when it comes out, be sure I want a signed copy, and I'll be able to get it DHL or FedEx or UPS out to where I am. You are an incredible person. The stories that you have shared with me, what you have gone through to be able to support young people in South Africa, in this free state, in Putalichaba, has been amazing. When you look back, Ntate, to so you talk about letters, to your younger self. When you look back, what would you change when you look back at the history that you've had with me, with your organization, with the social entrepreneurship ventures that you have run? When you look back and you think back, what is it that you know now that you would perhaps say, I wish I knew this when I was getting started?
That I'll just say that I wish I was taught how to read as young as I can. Like that's exactly what I'm practicing with my children now. Yeah. Every now and then, I say, let's go to an exclusive book. Let's go to an exclusive book. Choose a book of your choice. Who's your, because the more we read, I think there's a code that says something that the mind that has been stretched can never go back to its original dimension. Yeah. I would wish that my mind would have been stretched, from as early as 5 years old. Yeah. And these are some of the things I'm talking to young Molefi about. And these are some of the things I'm already practicing now with my kids and everyone around me. I tell them, let's read, because those who cannot read cannot lead.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Those who cannot read cannot lead. I love that. And then, as it relates to macro informative youth agencies, are there any sort of key lessons that you've observed over the years that you'd love to share with us?
I think one thing that I realized in that day, every great initiative that impact the society comes from the pain that society is going through. If we can have more people listening to the pain and the cry of the needy, that we will see great innovation
Yeah.
because of the work that we are doing. We are now so favored to be working with innovators across the Eastern Free State. People who are coming
Wow.
with amazing innovations. We are preparing one or two of them now to hit the market. We see that. So I think if we can have more people who are looking for the cry and the pain of the needy and listening to that. I think that's what I've learned with macroinformative. Now I'm devoted. I'm devoted and committed to empower young people. And almost
That's
every
amazing.
time my phone ring and say,
Yeah.
my child needs this, how can you
Yeah.
help? I know who to, we just need to have more people listening to the cry of the need in that day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
Tate, I know you follow the Voices Listed podcast show with Dr. Pimak, and you know that I always ask my guests, a question before we
Yes.
complete. So we are coming up to the end of our time, and so
Mhm.
here we go. If you were to have a conversation or a dinner with someone, with three people who are living or who are dead, who would they be in Tate, and why would you want to meet with those people?
Okay, then I think first of all, it will be Tata Nelson Mandela.
Uh-huh.
Love to have dinner with him,
Yeah.
Just to understand how the old man's mind work. I've never met someone who's so compassionate. Never met someone who's so forgiving, and who's so rooted in finding peace and justice for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And not actually counting people's faults.
That's true.
I've learned a lot from him, from his teachings, from his
Yeah.
wisdom. I would love to have dinner with him, whether now or when I get to heaven.
Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
Nice number one. And the second one?
It will be Dr. Miles Monroe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more. Why?
I loved a lot about his leadership philosophy.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
He believes that every single person was born to lead in
Yeah.
their unique way of area of gifting. He believes so passionately that we're born to be leaders in one way or the other. So I would love to have dinner with him and let him help me understand how he viewed leadership.
How he viewed leadership.
I love his amazing work. And the last one that day that I would love to have is Barack Obama.
Aha.
Hmm.
Tell us more.
It's Barack Obama. Man, the man's vision for Africa and the world is just so amazing. It's just so amazing. I love how he put everything into action. I love how he actually dealt with or how he led America when he was a president, but also his love for African continent. His love for African continent and seeing it being developed. Those are the three that.
And in particular, you and I were part of the Mandela Washington
beneficiaries of
fellowship,
Mandela
right?
Washington
That
fellowship.
President Obama started.
Yes.
That's amazing. Molefi Nyofane, you, my friend, are doing the ultimate good work of empowering, connecting youth with opportunities, youth with entrepreneurial possibilities, not only in Putalichaba in the Eastern Free State, but you're doing that in South Africa through your scholarship, through your policy related work. My friend, my brother, receive virtual flowers from me, my brother, for this work that you're doing. I am so inspired by the work that you do, my brother. You have no idea, right? So I think you and I had a conversation, and I'll just come out of Zimbabwe and I'm meeting with you in South Africa, and we're talking about the work that we're doing. We're exchanging notes, and I was telling you about the questions that I got from the youth that I met in Zimbabwe. They were asking me, okay, we've gone through early childhood development programs. You have assisted us, you've supported us. Now, what next?
Yeah.
Right? And I think you and I spent close to 2 hours. We were, debating, and I was listening to your story, and I was throwing, some more questions as we sat there and having conversations about what next. And the reality is, by 2050, a third of the world's population is going to be in Africa, and in particular, or a third of the world's young children will be in Africa. And so we've got a ballooning population, and I'm so excited to know that your organization, your social entrepreneurship, is already looking into that glass ball and saying, hey, how do we support these youth that are going to be around? So my brother, my friend, receive your flowers. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Thank you so much for coming onto the Voices Listed podcast show with Dr. PMAC. I appreciate you, and please keep on keeping on, Ndate.
Thank you so much, Ndate. Thank you, much appreciated.
Fantastic. Listeners, I was speaking with Molefi Nyofane. He is an amazing person, a social entrepreneur, an academic, a researcher who is doing some amazing, amazing work in South Africa. Until next time, have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Voices Listed podcast with Dr. PMAC. I hope you enjoyed insights that came out of this conversation. Keep your notifications on. Our next episode will be dropping soon. Thank you and enjoy.